This is EWS Weekly News.
Good morning, and it's great to have you with us here on this Friday morning. There was a lot of major news this week, from the shooting of Dante Wright to Biden's announcement regarding Afghanistan, but we begin today with the major announcement from the CDC and FDA pausing the use of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. Here's EWS's business correspondent, Dylan Canfield.
On Tuesday, injections of the medical company Johnson & Johnson's COVID-19 vaccine were halted. This stop came directly from the major federal health agencies, such as the CDC and FDA, out of an abundance of caution. They recommended a pause on all injections of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine after severe medical conditions were developed by 6 recipients of this vaccine. All 6 recipients were women between the ages of 18 and 48, and each developed severe and rare blood clotting. One woman from Virginia has died, while another is hospitalized in critical condition. These reactions to the Johnson & Johnson vaccine are quite rare, as 7 million people in the US alone have already received this vaccine. Max?
And reports say that this pause could last at least another week. Thank you, Dylan. We continue with the shooting of Dante Wright by Officer Kim Potter in Brooklyn Center, Minnesota. Officer Potter claims that she accidentally fired her gun, thinking that it was her taser, while the family of Dante Wright says it was no accident. EWS's national correspondent Abby Cowan reports.
In the Brooklyn center of Minneapolis, hundreds have been protesting since white officer Kim Potter fatally shot 20-year-old black man Dante Wright earlier this week. These protesters, along with Dante's family, have been calling for charges to be brought against Potter for the killing, which occurred at a traffic stop. As Police Chief Tim Gannon says, Potter mistaked her gun for her taser as Wright resisted arrest. Potter resigned, then was arrested the following day and has been charged with second-degree manslaughter, as Minnesota statutes state that this charge can apply in situations of negligence and when someone creates unreasonable risk. The maximum punishment is 10 years in prison. However, Dante's family, lawyer, and others say that the killing was no accident, but rather an intentional, deliberate, and unlawful use of force, and that this charge is not severe enough. This incident has shaken the city of Minneapolis, as it is playing out at the same time as the Minneapolis trial of officer charged with George Floyd's death, Derek Chauvin. As always, we will keep you updated on this story. Max?
And we will stay on it. Thank you, Abby. We move on tonight to Biden's announcement that he will withdraw all U.S. troops from Afghanistan by September 11th, a move that has drawn some criticism. EWS's political correspondent Ethan Canfield has the details.
On Wednesday, April 14th, President Biden announced that he plans to withdraw all troops from Afghanistan on September 11th of this year. This will mark the 20th anniversary of 9/11, which is what started the forever war. There are currently about 2,500 troops remaining in Afghanistan. President Biden stated, "We cannot continue the cycle of extending or expanding our military presence in Afghanistan, hoping to create the ideal conditions for our withdrawal, expecting a different result." Biden is now the 4th president to serve during this war. He has made it clear that it is far beyond time to leave Afghanistan, and that finally pulling our remaining troops will be in our best interest. This decision by Biden has gone against many of his military advisors, who believe that they should wait to pull troops until Afghan security advisors could defend themselves against the Taliban. Biden has historically been against a strong presence in Afghanistan, and now believes that America must shift our international focus to Russia and China at this time. Max, back to you.
Ethan Canfield, thank you. There were a lot of weather events this week all around the globe, and EWS's weather correspondent Phoebe Cosgrove has them all covered for you.
Changes in India's monsoon rainfall could bring serious consequences to more than 1 billion people. Too much or too little rain can harm the agricultural industry. Spring lets winter get the last laugh as snow is forecasted across portions of the U.S., with widespread below-average temperatures and late-season snow in the forecast. The Muldrow Glacier on the north side of Alaska is undergoing a rare surge. In the past few months, the 39-mile-long river of ice has been moving as much as 90 feet a day, 100 times its usual speed. In more recent news, you may have heard of some volcanic eruptions. The UN warns of a humanitarian crisis as St. Vincent eruptions displace thousands. About 20% of the island's population has evacuated, and volcanic activity is expected to continue for days or weeks. La Sofière volcano first erupted on Friday, covering the lush green island with ash that continues to blanket communities in St. Vincent as well as Barbados and other nearby islands. Thanks, Max.
Phoebe Cosgrove with the weather report. Thank you, Phoebe. We continue back home today with a ship that capsized off the coast of Louisiana. EWS's Sophie Kalman reports.
The United States Coast Guard launched a recovery mission Wednesday off the coast of Louisiana, a major center of the oil and gas industry, in search of a lift boat that capsized. The team found one dead at the surface of the water, rescued 6, and have continued searching for the remaining 12. Captain Will Watson of the Coast Guard said that winds traveled up to 90 miles per hour and waves ranged from 7 to 9 feet when the boat capsized. The Coast Guard, along with divers and other agencies, are currently investigating the harsh weather that caused this incident. Meteorologists say that the weather was amplified by one of the strongest low wakes that the region has seen in almost 2 decades. The 129-foot ship still remains partially submerged in water depths of up to 55 feet. Seeker Marine, the Houston-based company affiliated with the vessel, set up hotlines to be able to update the families of the sailors. Max?
Thank you, Sophie. We now go around the globe to the major international news this week, from Iran to Ecuador, and as always, our international correspondent, Vicky Kai, has it all covered.
Over the weekend, Iran's nuclear facility in Natanz, which had just announced the launch of the country's latest centrifuges, suffered a power blackout that caused detriment to many of these newly operational machines. The perpetrators and cause of the attack are still uncertain. However, Iran and many others speculate Israel is the likely origin of the attack, claiming Israeli infiltrators within Iran's nuclear program could have been responsible for a reported explosion that led to the blackout. Israel has defended itself in turn by claiming that a cyber attack of undetermined origin was responsible. The attack could imperil the recent fragile negotiations between the U.S. and Iran to attempt reviving the Iran nuclear deal of 2015. Simultaneous presidential elections occurred in Ecuador and Peru on Sunday. Ecuador's election was a second-round runoff between the two leading candidates from the first round in February. Former two-time presidential candidate Guillermo Lasso of the center-right party Creo was elected in an upset victory against Andrés Arauz, a far-left candidate who was an ally of the former authoritarian president Rafael Correa. President-elect Lasso's win has been widely celebrated as a win for the preservation of the already fragile Ecuadorian democracy, and he will be inaugurated on May 24th. Meanwhile, in Peru, which held the first round of its elections on Sunday, the left-wing socially conservative populist Pedro Castillo received a surprise plurality 19% of the vote, after polling far behind the major candidates for weeks. The election, in which no candidate got anywhere close to a majority, reveals an electorate deeply disconcerted with the political turmoil the country has experienced over the past 5 years. Castillo will advance to a runoff against Keiko Fujimori, the daughter of former President Alberto Fujimori, whose authoritarian tendencies wound him up in jail after leaving office. Finally, this week, U.S. President Joe Biden announced, against the advice of some of his generals, that his administration plans to withdraw all troops from Afghanistan, bringing an end to 20 years of war and the longest armed conflict the U.S. has ever been involved in. The troops will be withdrawn by September 11th of this year. However, many worry that this move will cause the Taliban to consolidate even more power in Afghanistan and cause further turmoil to the war-torn nation. That's this week's International News Rundown. Back to you, Max.
Vicky Kai with the international news. Thank you, Vicky. And finally tonight, a historic win at the Masters. Golfer Hideki Matsuyama made history in Augusta as the first Japanese-born player to win the Masters. Matsuyama also becomes the first male Japanese golfer to win a major championship. The win comes with a paycheck of $2.07 million. Not bad for 4 days of work. And that's this week's edition of the EWS Weekly News. From all of us here, I'm Max Rothman. Have a great day, and I'll see you right back here next week.